Imagine waking up one morning and realizing time itself just isn't equal anymore. You and a friend look at the exact same clock, but while you're living in this fast-paced world, they are moving through a profoundly slower one. Years are suddenly passing differently depending on how fast you travel or how close you stand to extreme gravity. Imagine living a full, long lifetime while someone else returns from a journey after what felt like just a few months to them, only to discover that literal decades have vanished here on Earth.
In today's explainer, we're going to map out the reality, deep travel, society out of sync, the lost traveler, morality, and finally, cherishing the present.
Section 1. The reality of bending time.
Okay, so here's the crucial thing we have to establish. Time is not some universal river that runs evenly across the cosmos for all of us. According to modern physics, time is actually baked into the very structure of space itself, space-time, and under the right conditions, it stretches and bends. Now, in our everyday lives, this difference is so tiny we don't even notice it, though, fun fact, our GPS satellites do actually have to account for it. But once you reach extreme speeds or get near really strong gravity, the rules change entirely. A person traveling incredibly fast literally ages less than someone standing still. There is no science fiction here. This is the proven reality of relativity.
Section 2. The cost of deep travel.
So, what happens when time dilation stops being a chalkboard equation and becomes an actual lived experience? Well, life gets radically complicated. Consider the traveler's reality for a second. They head out on a deep space mission, experience what feels like just a few months of personal time, and age only slightly. But on the other side, that's Earth's reality, where decades have passed. You could leave home for a short mission and come back to find that the world you knew has completely transformed. Languages might have shifted, governments collapsed and rebuilt, technology leaped forward by centuries. Travel is no longer just movement through space. It becomes this unequal movement through history. And think about the absolute emotional toll of that. As the quote goes, distance is not only measured in miles, but in lived time. Imagine a parent leaving on a mission and returning to find grandchildren who are older than they are, or a friend coming back to a social circle that is completely unrecognizable. A reunion like that, it'd be incredibly joyful, sure, but also utterly devastating. You're separated not just by millions of miles of empty space, but by missed life events, skipped birthdays, and a completely different pace of existence.
Section 3. Society out of sync.
When time isn't shared, the everyday concepts we totally take for granted just completely break down. Think about our legal systems. How in the world do you calculate inheritance, or enforce a labor schedule, or even determine a retirement age when a citizen's biological age doesn't match the calendar on the wall? What happens to marriage rights? And in healthcare, we'd literally need to invent a whole new branch of medicine. You could have a patient with the calendar age of 90, but the biological body of a 30-year-old. Doctors would have to start diagnosing conditions based on a body's unique relationship to the fabric of time. Wild, right? Then you get to the economic and political implications, which are frankly staggering. Time itself would become a highly contested variable. Imagine a megacorporation utilizing high-speed labor, operating near strong gravity so their workers can knock out years of incredibly complex R&D in what amounts to just weeks of Earth time. Meanwhile, governments could set up deep space observation outposts where their operatives age super slowly, locking in long-term strategic military advantages. Picture a diplomatic crisis where one nation is experiencing the tension over a few days, while another feels it dragging out over months. That kind of misunderstanding goes way deeper than language. It's a fundamental desynchronization of reality. Section 4. The lost traveler problem. Beyond the macroeconomics and military strategy, the emotional toll of altered time creates some deeply haunting scenarios for personal identity. We measure ourselves by years, right? By milestones and endings. Time is the scaffolding of our identity. And that brings us to the lost traveler problem. Say someone goes on a mission and returns to Earth. They step off that ship and boom, their references are outdated, their social ties have faded. The person they once were just doesn't fit into the future they've returned to. It makes coming home incredibly bittersweet because home has literally moved on without them. Their memories belong to an earlier version of the world, making them a living historical artifact. They might have this almost mythic wisdom, but it comes at the cost of profound, heavy isolation, which naturally forces us to confront some incredibly difficult questions about human connection. Take a look at this diverging relationship timeline. You begin with a shared start, totally synchronized. Then comes the unequal journey, where time stretches differently for each of you. And finally, the asymmetrical reunion. Can love even survive when partners no longer share the same life stage or temporal rhythm? If one person waits at home and ages 30 years while the other only ages 3, they don't just look different. They have a massively different volume of life experience. It might not destroy love, but it fundamentally transforms it into something humanity has literally never had to navigate before. Section 5. Morality in a temporal divide. Because, any technology this powerful never exists in a vacuum. The choices we make with this capability will absolutely define us. On one hand, you have a pretty terrifying scenario. If time dilation is only accessible to the rich and the powerful, time itself becomes a hoarded commodity. The wealthy could effectively extend their influence across generations, stepping into the future while preserving their youth. It would create a class divide unlike anything in human history, a literal divide in the passage of time. On the flip side, if this technology is democratized, it could fairly expand opportunity in extraordinary ways. It could allow humanity to explore the cosmos and take on massive, long-term projects without sacrificing entire generations. The moral choice isn't the physics. The moral choice is who actually gets to use it.
Section 6. Cherishing the present.
Paradoxically, diving into all these mind-bending consequences of altered time actually reveals just how precious ordinary time really is. We spend so much of our lives wishing time would move faster to get to the weekend or slower so we can hold on to a moment. But realizing that time can actually physically bend differently, it makes the mundane feel sacred. A simple shared day with family, a walk in the sun, a quiet meal together. These things take on a profoundly new meaning in a universe where synchrony is not guaranteed. When you realize the pace of life is a physical reality that can be fragmented, you start to see that sharing the exact same present moment with someone you love is an absolute gift.
So, if humanity ever crosses this threshold, turning the abstract theories of physics into our everyday reality, what will we become? Will a civilization with the power to alter time use it to expand human possibility, to become wiser and more collaborative? Or will we use it to build new hierarchies, weaponize time, and leave each other behind in the dark? The clock is on the wall, but its meaning is entirely up to us. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the universe around you.